Good morning, Max Raynor.
Hey Ted, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Good, man.
How many grandchildren are you up to now?
Three.
Three.
Three little girls.
So Mary Beth had the last one?
She had the last one. Yes, a year and a half old.
Okay.
Next is going to be four in 2 or 3 weeks.
Very nice.
I got one that's almost 7. So if little boys are better than little girls, that's going to be something else because little girls are pretty good, man.
Oh yeah. I that's the thing. I've only had boys in my, as children around me, but I am hoping and praying that one of my boys gets me a granddaughter so I can have somebody to really love on, because you know how it is when you're, boys don't want to love on you. That's, how that goes.
Welcome to the Vision of Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Ted McElroy. This podcast is dedicated to helping you find your wins, have a better quality of life, and become the best leader you can be. Hey, have you subscribed to this podcast yet? Don't miss an episode. They're worth every single thing you paid for them, which is nothing because they're free. I invite you to subscribe to the podcast by hitting the subscribe button. Give us a rating and a review on your specific podcast player. This helps us with our podcast rankings and makes it easier for people to find us. And as always, please support those who help support us. On episode 102 of this podcast, Chris interviewed Justin Kwan, Michelle Andrews, and Richard Ruth. They pointed out that as a profession, we have done a great job of letting our patients know that myopia is not a big deal. If you can see 20/20, there is no worry. It is the high myopes that are in more danger. And as they said, that message is tragic. Any myopia has a higher risk of maculopathy, glaucoma, and earlier cataract development. In the MiSight one-day clinical trials, only 4% of study participants who got ProClear one-days stayed stable in their myopia progression over the 3-year period. That means you can confidently say, parent, by not going to a system geared to slow the myopia progression, there is a 96% chance your child's vision will get worse. This may take away some of the choice your child has in the future as to how they will correct their vision. Choice, not fear of the disease associations with myopia, is what best resonates with parents when it comes to myopia control for their children. And with CooperVision's MiSight One Day, we now have an FDA-approved single-use contact lens to lessen the progression of myopia in our patients. Contact your CooperVision representative to find out more about MiSight One Day contact lenses.
Welcome to the Vision of Leadership podcast. I'm Ted McElroy, and today I have one of my dearest friends, Dr. Max Raynor from Benson, North Carolina. He and I have known each other for a lot of years. And on top of that, we got a chance to serve together on the SECO board as trustees and then in the chairs, SECO. And just a wonderful, amazing guy. I know y'all are going to have a great time, just like I'm planning on it. And like I tell everybody when we're getting ready to have these things, I really don't care if y'all enjoy this or not. This is all about me, just having a great conversation with a good friend of mine. So Max, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me, Ted. I'm looking forward to being here and looking forward to our chat.
My pleasure. So I want to start off talking about the fact that, and you probably don't know this, but you were a legend to me before you and I actually ever met, primarily because of your brother, Eric. Eric and I were classmates at SECO, graduated in 1993. And I can remember him telling these just massive stories about my brother Max, and I mean, how he was saying things. I mean, Eric has the tendency to sort of exaggerate a little bit. And I think that's something that's rubbed off on me a lot too. But he said, he can just about take a contact lens from across the room and just throw it into somebody's eye, and I was just amazed, all the things he said. But what it really came down to was the fact that you were in a community that you guys kind of grew up in, and that legendary status had sort of come about. So I guess the first question I have is, who was the first optometrist in y'all's family?
My dad is the oldest brother, and my uncle is the youngest brother. and he went to optometry school. He's 12 years older than me. I'm 64, he's 76. And so he was the first. And since then, and I went to optometry school. Eric did, my cousin Dan, my brother-in-law Alan. Now we've got, my daughter is an optometrist. My niece is an optometrist. I've got a nephew and his girlfriend that are going to school to be optometrists. So we have a giant optometry clan.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to name them all, and then I was going to basically say, well, that's all we had time for today, ladies and gentlemen, because, I mean, it is really a heck of a legacy that optometry has shaped your family so much. What was it that made it happen that way? I mean, how did you guys all just get so excited about optometry?
Well, it seems to me that a lot of people, a lot of my family, they saw how successful you could be in optometry. And I'm not talking about financially successful, although that's true. I'm talking about optometry is a profession where you really do good. You help people. Sometimes you save people's lives. There's all kinds of ways, old and new, that happens. We all know that. And I've got even a new way of saving a person's life that I'm really excited about. But, not only do you do that, but you make that person see, which really means nothing to you, but it changes their life. And so in many ways, it's what I think is the best profession in the world. So I think my family sees that. And the nicest thing about having a family of optometrists is on Sunday at the kitchen table, the other members of the family are bored to death because we're all talking about optometry. And that benefit is priceless, because it's just like at SECO. The benefit of SECO is not the great CE or the great party or the great all the other stuff. It's the me and you hanging out and talking about ideas, and you telling me something that makes the light go off in my head, or vice versa, and you take home a pearl that you can use that really makes you better. Yep. So that's the beautiful thing, is that we've had that ability to talk things through, and maybe after we talk things through, the thing I think, no, that don't work. But the other thing too is that the young people, the young optometrists, don't have to make the same mistakes that I made, because they've got somebody, 2 or 3 people that go, I wouldn't do that because of this, this, and this, rather than try it and see if it fails.
Well, I mean, okay, so I like the idea of not having to be able to make the same mistakes, but I mean, how important is it to make mistakes?
It's really important. If you don't shoot, you can't score. And, so you got to try things. And sometimes you're going to strike out, and sometimes you're going to hit home runs. There's things we're trying right now that are nobody. There's a thing that I'm getting ready to do that no optometrist in America has done yet. And just the state board approved it yesterday, and I'm real excited about it. And but it's a risk, but we're going to try it anyway. And the reason why, not only is it's a thing that is going to work out really well for the practice, but it's also going to save people's lives.
Well,
I'll go.
If you want to talk about it, if it's not too proprietary or whatever.
No, it's not. It's something that's been around for a long time, but they brought it to the ophthalmology and optometry world just recently. And supposedly, from what they're telling me, I'll be the first optometrist in America to do it. I'll be the second. There's an ophthalmologist in North Carolina, but I'll be the second person in North Carolina to do it. And it's transcranial Doppler. It's an ultrasound that measures the blood flow velocity and the direction of the blood flow of all the arteries that come off the circle of Willis. It measures the arteries that feed the eye, the visual pathway, the visual cortex. And so basically, in the long and short of it is that 75% of strokes happen there. So, you can, in theory, predict a person how their chances are having a stroke or not. And I live in the country, and so that's Stroke City. And there's so many people that every time I tell a person about it, they say, I want to do that. I don't care what it costs. I want to do that. I want to see what my chances are. And so I see it as a thing. It's kind of like glaucoma. We're going to find the right people, do it, they'll either not have any problems, or they'll have a little issue that they need watching, or a more major issue that they need to go to their family doctor or to their primary care provider and start the process of looking after it, or maybe something further. My buddy, that's the ophthalmologist that's doing it, says he's been doing it a couple of months. He said he's already saved 3 or 4 people's lives, best he can tell. So it's real exciting.
That's amazing. I mean, so this is something else. I mean, I've always admired about you, Max, is, I mean, you have sort of a gift at looking at technology and bringing it in to your practice. And a lot of people don't think about small towns as being the technology hubs, and that's something, I guess, again, just from watching you from afar, that's one of the things we've tried to embrace here in Tifton in our practice as well. How do you find out about these technologies? How do you implement them into your practice so quickly? And how do you get your guests to buy into the fact that this is something they need to have?
Well, again, it's the deal of I'm not scared to strike out. I'm willing to take a chance, and if it makes it better, if it has the chance to make things better. And I have an overall vision too for most things. I've always wanted, when I was in optometry school, I kind of envisioned that I wanted things to be everything set in place, and the exam be sort of digital, where everything is done digitally and uniformly and without, well, I tell people it's because I'm a lazy guy, and it's kind of true, but I really do. Everything is done. I'll give you an example of that. The latest thing that I've done, which is I've used. Are you familiar with iKinetics from Conan?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Well,
I have. Again, while I'm telling you I've invented the internet, which is kind of sounds like some of that stuff. I have bought 3 of them, and then I've got a couple more since I bought them. But those first 3. In my Benson office, there's a number 1 on there, and in the Roseboro office, there's a number 2, and the Clinton office, there's number 3. They were the first 3 in America. Now, there's disadvantages to that because you have to go through the bugs, getting the bugs out. But basically, what it does is it measures, it quantifies APDs, and their propaganda says that you could do the same thing with neutral density filters in about 20 minutes. But this does it automatically. So, and I thought when I bought it that it would be for like MS and things like that. What it's really for is amblyopia and glaucoma, and it'll show you obviously you can parlay the pupil function into the functionality of the optic nerve. So if you see that you've got an APD of a 0.36, and then next year it's a 0.46, and then next year it's a 0.56, you might have a problem. And so it quantifies things, not just, and maybe I know you and everybody else out there are better at optometry than I am, and you might be able to quantify Marcus gun pupils better than me, but I can tell they're blind, or they got a little one, or they ain't got one, and so this makes it a lot more exact than that, and gives you one more thing. It doesn't, one of the things they said about it, there's no billing, there's no code. There's no procedure codes you can file, but it shows you things that you can go way down the rabbit hole with other stuff because of that.
But you just also talked about there's no code. I think that is a trap that our profession has gotten into, is trying to find a code for every single thing. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'll give you an example about that. I've got OCT angio. I got the Zeiss. I had that early on, and back then, when I've had it for 5 or 6 years, I guess, and back when I bought it, it was $92,000, and in North Carolina, what you got paid for a macular or any kind of OCT is about $35 or $40, and I used to laugh about that. 38 went into 92,000 too many times. And so, so that's, buying it for that reason is not a good plan. But when you can, when you can see IRMA in a way, no other way you can see it. I believe you can tell. The first week, I had a lady who was about 45 years old, and she said she wanted diabetic, but they had been watching for it, but she wanted diabetic. She had Irma out, just wicked amounts of Irma, and just so I sent her there. I was able to show her that, and show her that if she's having capillary damage in the retina, she's having it in everywhere else too. And now she got controlled. And so again, back on that saving a person's life thing is very satisfying. And so I've seen that a bunch.
Does saving someone's life drive a lot of the decisions that you're making when you're at practice, when you're doing things?
Well, one of the reasons why I think our office has been successful, I've got a friend that when I opened my office in Benson 100 years ago, he opened a Mexican restaurant in Benson. He's from Mexico, and he put in the paper. There was articles in the paper about us opening side by side. He put in the paper that he didn't want to have a Mexican restaurant. He wanted to serve Mexican food to his friends, and I've always thought about that. That's what I want to do too. So I want to provide our care to my family, friends, and neighbors, and so I have a responsibility for them. I feel it anyway, and so anything I can do to make their make the outcome that with their association with me better, I'm all for it. I'm trying to polish that apple all the time.
So, this is detection of stroke. This is looking at pupillary sizes, and things that probably when we were going through school didn't even come up in conversation, much less were thoughts about. I guess I got a good question. What is the craziest thing you've tried to do? And what was the second craziest thing you tried to do that actually worked?
Well, the dumbest thing, the thing that pops in my mind is the dumbest thing, which I'm still using, is I've done specular microscopy on people for 10 or 12 years. And so when I did it, I was looking at, just the images and the numbers. I didn't even know what I was looking at. I had 3 of them. I'd spent $100,000 on 3 of those specular microscopes from Conan. And I went to a lecture from Craig Thomas at SECO, and I learned how to do it after about 4 years of having it. So that was one where I wasn't really proud of, but it sure was the truth. And then there's the dumbest thing I've ever done is, do you remember back, this is a long time ago, the company was called Recontech, I believe, but it was one of those TV things where you put the TV in your waiting room and it showed ads, and it probably cost me, I think it cost me $15,000 or $20,000 back then, which was way big money 25 years ago or 30 years ago. And supposedly these companies were going to put ads on there and pay you back. And of course, they never paid you back. It never paid anything. And, the leasing company owned it now. The company that gave it to you was long gone. Yeah. So I was stuck to that.
Mine wasn't quite that high tech. This was like this. It was an LED board. All the lights were red. And they sent you a 3.5 floppy disk once a month to put in there with all the different data. And, you could create your own things, but yes, they sold it on the point of, all these manufacturers are going to want to buy ads for it, and just like you, I got stuck with this huge board that didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, at least you had a flat screen monitor out of it. All I got was a big red board that didn't do anything for me at all.
It was so, and their deal was so dumb too. I remember they had a gun and a hair dryer, and they said, "Get your eyes checked. It's important."
So what did the gun and the hair dryer have to do with it?
You would pick up the gun to dry your hair instead of the hair dryer. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you lost me on that one for a second.
Try to shoot with the hair dryer, right?
You were talking earlier too about one of the big things about, not just SECO, but SECO is near and dear to both of us. And I think that part of the reason it is so is because of relationships that are built. How important are friendships and relationships, not just for optometrists, but I think that the thing that scares me the most is now, running my business, turn around and look, and the majority of the people that I have my closest relationships with live over 100 miles away because they're all my colleagues. They're not right here in my own community.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes young people think that they are adversarial to their competition. You know, I always think about the way I practice optometry as the way I played baseball. I played a lot of baseball and back in the day in another lifetime, and we would play. When we were playing, I would hurt you on the field. You know, and I knew you'd hurt me too. But when we finished, we'd go have a beer and hang out, and we were friends forever. Still friends now that I played with and against. And that's sort of the same. I think of the optometry as that same way. I'm not talking about hurting any optometrists, but I will, anything I'm doing. I've got an optometrist down the street in Benson who I don't know what he thinks about me, but I think he's a great guy, and I'll help him any way I can. You know, we'll do what we have no real animus, because there's so much to go around. There's no reason to try to hoard it in or hold it in, and so that always works better. The thing about getting out there and friends, one of the things, I don't know, that might not be answering the question, but one of the things I've always noticed, that the best thing a person can do is walk down the street and meet people and get relationships. I've been on bank boards and children's home boards and community health center boards and all kinds of things. And the more you're known, I think that a potential patient, they just want to know you're a good guy. They just want to have, one of the things that I've told my other family, that when they start out, is that no person in America is going, man, I can't see. I sure do wish an eye doctor would come to my town. I cannot see. There's nobody in America that's waiting for somebody to come to them so they can see. They've gone somewhere. They've handled their problem somehow. So every person that walks into your office that gets you to help them has to choose you, and they choose you over everyone else in the world. So is it location? Is it because they know you? Is it because of price? Is it because of a nice looking office? Is it because of whatever reason they chose you over everybody else? And so you got to make them do that. And so getting out there and showing them that you're a regular guy and a regular person, and that they're making them feel like they have a connection with you, is the way that patients flood in.
So why do you think they're choosing you, Eric? I mean, Max, sorry, I'm going to call you Eric about 5 times.
I think they see you when I'm also, like in Benson, I'm a town commissioner. And so I make a lot of connections that way. I'm involved in politics pretty big. And so I make a lot of connections that way. And so they just see you as a regular guy, and they see you for the person that you are. And maybe some of them don't like it. I think in the politics part, there are some that don't like it, but a lot of them really do like it. And they come because of that.
So do you think that's something that's universal? I mean, does it translate as well in a big city as it does in a small town?
I don't think so. And of course, I don't understand urban. I would never put a practice in an urban area, not because I have anything against it. So I don't understand it. I believe that, I'll tell you, before I tell you this part, I'll tell you that I've always said that the salary of an optometrist is directly proportional to the distance from a Starbucks. The more urban you are, the less you're going to make. The more rural you are, the better you're going to do. And the urban, in my, this might be, people might jump through the screen at me that are watching this, but in my view, urban practices are product driven and rural practices are service driven. And so their accent is on a different thing. And so I have nothing with products. I have no problem with glasses contacts, but there's a lot more that we do than that. And it's a great thing to have a perfect mix. Sometimes though, in urban areas, it's really hard to do when you can throw a rock to your left and hit an eye doctor, and throw a rock to your right and hit an eye doctor. you're kind of stuck doing one thing. And then
that's really true. And you have done a lot of times of speaking to students and things, going through your different organizations you've done. That's the one thing I think I've come about with is so many of them say, I'll have a conversation. So what are you going to do when you graduate? And the first, I'm going to Atlanta, so I can do all these things that I learned here in optometry school. Well, that's real great. I hope you're really good at one of those things. What do you mean by that? Well, there's a guy down the street that is world-class at the one thing. And next door to him is a lady who is world-class at a different thing. And there's hundreds of those people doing one thing, but they all got it covered. So if you think you're going to do it all, you're in trouble. Now, if you want to come and do what you want to do, all of that stuff, come to Tifton, where you can, see somebody got popped in the eye with a bungee cord trying to put something on their truck this afternoon, followed by or just a general practice type kind of thing, followed by a contact lens evaluation, followed by an amblyop, followed by a foreign body. And that's a whole day right there. I think that really opens up the eyes. I do think though that I'm in trouble myself, because you talked about the salary versus a Starbucks. They put a Starbucks here in Tifton about 10 years ago. So I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, well, it might be. You might lose.
When you're developing these relationships, I mean, how many of those things come down to a decision you made that had nothing to do with business?
About 99% of it. That's right. It's just being out there and serving. And I don't know if I'm like you, Ted, in this way, but this is true for me. I have done so many things, so many Forrest Gump things in my life. And the reason why I've done them is because I was too stupid to say no, and so I just keep doing these things because I didn't realize I couldn't do them. And so I seem to be able to do them. So that's the patients just, if you do that and you do it well, you'll never run out of contacts, which means you'll never run out of patients. We don't advertise, we don't do anything except have a phone, have a call center, and we're right now in my offices we're doing 100 patients a day.
So give the audience an idea of what Benson, North Carolina is. I mean, where is it located? What's the size of the community? That sort of thing.
Benson is a small town east of Raleigh and north of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it's about 3,800 people. But when you say that, that's a little misleading, because in the area code of my area code is 18,000 people, and in my county is 210,000 people, and it's the fastest growing county in North Carolina. And so the drawing area is huge. That's not my biggest office. My biggest office is in Clinton, North Carolina, which is in Sampson County, which is 30 miles east. And that's an office that it's about 7,500 square feet. And we have ophthalmologists that come, and we have basically a waiting room, a pre-test flow, an exam flow on one side, a pre-test flow, an exam flow on the other side, and it all comes out in the dispensary, in the gift shop. So with that office, I'll see 45 or so patients a day, and the ophthalmologist that comes will see 45 patients in a half day, a lot of times when they come. So, and then when the other optometrists there, the younger optometrists, I'll see 45 or so, and they'll see about 30. And so that's like yesterday, that was where I was, and we probably saw 74 or 5 patients. So it's something that can be done. And well, then I have another office that's smaller in Roseboro. We're open about half the time there, and we see about when the young doctor's there, they're seeing about 30 patients a day, and I'm seeing about 45 wherever we go. So we have no trouble, because in the country there's so many people that need help. We've never had to open it unless something really was going, like COVID time and stuff like that. So we've been so lucky that way. That's the beautiful thing about being rural in the country, is people think I think people that are rural, that are urban, think nobody's out there. Well, yeah, there's a lot more people out there than you think, and they all need help. And I believe also that optometrists should go where the need is. And there are three big groups of people that need eye care and need help. That's old people, minority people, and poor people. And those people have lots of problems. People sometimes because they're young and they have to go to urban centers to find a life mate. They don't think they can find it in the country, and I get that part. They go there. They mostly just spend dollars and give out contacts and glasses. They never experience the real scope of their capabilities, which they work so hard in school for, and then they sometimes get out, and in my view, I see them getting at a place that just makes them wither away. After a few years, they're solid in a way they wish they weren't.
So, let's say that you're this young graduate, you're unmarried, you're wanting to find your mate, you still want to make a little bit of a living. Why is it that you couldn't just work in a big city for 3 or 4 years and then go somewhere else?
Well, you can, but you can, again, if you come out with all these skills, and my daughter, my niece have been practicing for 1 year. I've got another optometrist that's with me that's been practicing for 1 year. They are not experienced. Their experience level is not that great, but they are brilliant. They are way smarter than me. They're savvy in ways that I've never been, and so I'm so impressed with them, and that's what really makes me think. So many times people come out and get themselves in a situation where their skills just degrade. And if you get in a situation like in Tifton or in Benson where you can see full scope, the full practice of optometry, you can grow and improve and become something that you dream to be when you start the process.
Do you feel like our profession has reached a point where we've gotten too sedentary with our skills, or do you feel like there's an excitement now growing that we're going to have massive changes in our future?
I think the only certainty we have is there's going to be massive changes in the future. The analogy I always think about, or the example I think about of that is HEDIS guidelines. I think HEDIS guidelines changed the world for me, because there was a time when the primary care providers would there were two possibilities when they considered an optometrist. They either referred away from you or they were ambivalent. They didn't care. Nowadays it's exactly opposite. They either refer to you or they don't care. And because we're in the country, we have a massive amount of family doctors and primary care providers that send patients to us. The other thing too is that, and so that's a lot of times because of HEDIS guidelines, because they need that letter. My buddy that's an internist who is in town, has a giant practice. He bought a retinal camera and I helped him buy it. And I showed him the things of how to do it and the caveats of it. And he still bought a really crap. His stuff is really crap. But he said, "Max, I got to do it." He said, you're popping those letters out, and we're automated, so we just hit some buttons and it generates the letter, and they get what they need. He said, "I can't get anybody else to write me a letter." And he said, "We tried," and said it's dinging him on his MIPS and all that stuff score because he can't get the letter. And so the beauty of it is that I forgot what I was talking about. Now I'm old. The beauty of it is that family doctors now are more referred to us more than we ever have had them. The other thing too is we had a fight back 10 or 15 years ago about children's vision, and we got shot down in North Carolina because of we lost. But what it made the pediatricians all of a sudden do is they became more aware of it. So now if we see kids, a lot of times it's the pediatrician. They've gotten in the habit now where they get a kid, and if they're shy, or if it might be that they fail, but it might not be they fail. They just didn't read the chart that the tech over there tried to let them read. They do send them to optometrists, send them to optometrists. So we're just loaded with things like that. So that's just two examples of the situations that have changed, that have benefited us in ways that we would maybe have never expected. And I think other things like that, like the transcranial Doppler. Again, I talked about how beneficial that could be, but when we're talking about practice thing, that is crazy profitable. It's crazy, like to the tune of $500,000 a year is what I'm expecting. And so, there's so many things that come out that we haven't even thought of yet that are going to make it better. But now, if you're just doing optometry, kind of in a way that's refractive, only doing the minimum stuff, you might be in trouble. One of the things that I talk about, we talked about before, Ted, I'm sure. Are you familiar with blue ocean strategy?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing that
spell it out for everybody.
All right. Well, Blue Ocean Strategy is a book. It's about retailing. And basically there's two oceans, red oceans and blue oceans. Red oceans is where you compete on lowest price and cheapest crap you can give somebody to make them take it. And you're all out there fighting together. All the retailers are tearing each other apart, trying to outlow the other one and give the least they can get by with that they can. So it's a miserable situation. Blue ocean strategy is where you do stuff that nobody else is doing, and you're out there on the ocean flying right by yourself, and your wind's behind you, and the ocean's wide open. That's where I've always wanted to be. One of the things we kind of have themes in the office. That's a little crazy sounding, but we do. But one of the things that one of our themes for many years was we want to do it because it's hard. We want to do what chains is what Walmart won't do, and that's been very successful for us.
Why do you feel like it's been successful?
Well, just because people need things people need things that you don't think they need, and they'll buy things you don't think they'll buy. My areas are not rich by any stretch. They're not the most poor place in the world either, but they're not rich at all. And we pretty much only use lenses that are HD lenses. So we've got people in them. I've got thousands of people in freeform progressives. And the beauty of that, which is kind of evil, is that you can't get out of it. They sometimes a person will come. I love this when they do this. They'll say, well, Dr. Raynor, they come in and they'll say, Dr. Raynor, I got glasses from you 3 years ago and they were $600. I didn't want to spend that much. So I went to I don't know if I can say the words of that. I went to a chain.
Yeah. Went to a place
that was the best in America. And so I can't see out of these glasses. I said, and I always tell them, would you say that one more time? Because it makes my legs shake. I love it. And so, that's speaking of that place. There's a saying about that. You probably know the saying too. It probably cracks me up. It cracks me up. It says, that place is everybody goes to that place one time. And that's so
that's the best.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but there's so many things. I think if you're always pushing the envelope, you're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to hit a lot of home runs, and you're going to always be successful, and you're going to always be excited about optometry. And that's the thing too about SECO and about meetings and all that stuff. Everybody needs to get their batteries recharged, and that's one of the things that happens at those meetings too. If you're just staying home all the time and never going to the things and getting everything, is not getting out there and seeing colleagues as much as you can, you're never going to get your batteries recharged, and you're going to not be happy with optometry. But doing that it's a big benefit.
So you sort of broached the door already on education a little bit on this thing, and you and I definitely are on the same page on this one. How does education in optometry need to change?
Well, the biggest way I think it needs to change, and I've said this to SECO many times, and sometimes I'm not sure. People all go yeah, but I don't think they necessarily agree with me. But one of the things I've always wanted at SECO is for it to be controversial. The more controversial it is, the better it is, and the more people are going to agree or disagree. I don't care if they all disagree, but if they go in and listen, I'll give you an example of that I've never done. And I can't even think of what they're called now, but I have a childhood friend who is it iridologist?
Yes, I think that's what it is, but yeah.
They diagnose everything from
by looking
iris.
at the iris. Yeah, it's kind of like doing the foot thing too. Yeah, that kind of same stuff.
She is the world-renowned iridologist. And I've always thought about bringing her and letting her. I would always hate to do it because there's some buttholes out there that would tear her apart, and I don't want that. But I always thought about how good that would be to have her come and speak at somewhere at SECO or something, just to see what her thinking is, and see if there's many things we disagree with, but what if there was some things that we thought, wow, that agree with that. So yeah, she's I've had people come and I had a PA recently who came and said she wanted a picture of her iris because we could image everything, and I said, why do you want that? She said, well, I'm studying iridology and I'm studying it from this person. I said, yeah, I know her. She's my friend. She's from my childhood friend. She said, no, she's not. I texted her. And so she sent her a signed book, and she lives in California. She sent her a signed and so that's an example of controversy. And there have been so many controversial things in the past that we could have, back when, which is not so controversial now, but you remember how 10 years ago, text refracting was just taboo, and now it's not so much, but I'd love to have all those issues front and center so that we can talk through them. And I'll give you an example of one that I wish we had done. And you might say, well, we've done that, but I have never seen how an exam is done on an iPhone. How they do exams on an iPhone. I think we should have a class where they do an exam on an iPhone and they show you exactly what's happening. So, because it's got to be hokey, but you don't know. I don't know even how to talk bad about it because I don't know what they exactly do. I don't know if you hold your eye up to the phone or what. There's just a million things like that. But I think that education should be pertinent to the day.
I'm talking about controversy, and I tell you one thing. I think about controversy. I think that's where all of the disruptive technology lives, is in that controversy. Because the controversy typically is built around, well, I want to keep doing it the way I've been doing it. Well, we think it should be done this way. And in that controversy comes about those changes. It's the Uber, it's the Amazon, it's, hate it, love it, whatever, online refractions. I think that, if anything, that helped us and should continue to help us become better doctors, because it's pointing to the fact that the refraction is not the eye exam. And so many of us have built our practices on the eye exam being the refraction. And now that's showing that's not the case. I think that's where having these discussions in a large group setting are important. I totally agree with you on that. And I also think that education timeframes need to be changed. The days of a 2-hour presentation probably should have never taken place in the first place. But, I don't know that it's the best use of our time trying to consume 2 hours of information and being able to walk away with something that was truly meaningful when we're probably taking 10 minutes of knowledge out of that 2-hour time slot.
That's exactly right. The ophthalmologists, you see the way they do it a lot of times. They'll have like 5 or 10 minutes slurs of different things all at one time in those 2 hours. And that seems like a really good idea.
Are you getting a chance to see other educational opportunities outside of optometry?
No, not really. I just some ophthalmology stuff a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but this doesn't relate. But when I was on the bank board, I had to get 25 hours of Steve for banking every year, so I did a lot of that, but not anything health wise other than just oscillation.
Okay. I want to spend some time, because I don't want to get this swept under the rug, because I think it's really important. But you've been dealing with Parkinson's for quite a while, and I'd love to get how that has shaped who you are, how that has affected the way you practice. What were some of the first signs? I mean, for me, I had a familial tremor that I found out when I was about 15 years old that I had in my right hand, and it made it difficult to do certain tasks unless I was moving it. But if I was having to hold still, it shook really bad. By the time I was interviewing for optometry school, it was a concern of mine, and potentially could have played a role that would have kept me from doing what I needed to do, but somehow was able to figure out a way to get around it. I presume some of those same kind of thoughts. So just tell me your story on Parkinson's.
Well, I've best way I can figure, I've had it about 10 years, and I had a tremor in my right hand, and I thought it was just a non-essential tremor, but I was just saying that I didn't know what it was, and so it just got a little worse, and I went, and my family doctor sent me to the neurologist, and he said, "Yeah, you got mild Parkinson's." And so, I have basically, and he said, but it's just on your right side. So as long as it's on your right side only, that's cool. That's good. It's all right. It's not bad. And so my foot shakes a little bit on my right side, and my hand shakes a little bit on my right side, and my hand down my lower forearm is stiff. So, and that's basically all it does. And so, but now my left side started shaking a little bit, and I thought, oh no, So, but I was at the neurologist recently, and I see people in the office sometimes that come in a wheelchair, and they're kind of, catatonic.
Right.
And so, and I asked her, I said, okay, I've been going like this. What's my chances of going like that? She said, 0. I said, well, wow. I said, why do you say that? She said, well, I thought about that a lot. And she said, when you say Parkinson's, it's like saying cancer. There's brain cancer and skin cancer and prostate cancer and lung cancer and breast cancer. And so there's all kinds of different kinds of cancer, prostate cancer. There's all kinds of cancer, and they're all different, but they're all lumped in one thing. And it's the same with Parkinson's. There's some Parkinson's that go like that, and some Parkinson's that go like that. She said, you look like to me, you're going to be 10 years from now a little worse than you are now, and 10 years from then you're going to be a little worse than you are then. And so that was really made me feel really good. So hopefully that's the case. And the other thing too is I was taking the carbidopa levodopa, and I was taking about 1/10 of what you could take in a daily dose. She said, dude, you ain't even taking it right. And so it's still not so bad. So that's a really good sign. So I've upped that a little bit, and my tremors are not as bad, although they're still there. And I don't have any mental issues, but would I know that if I did? So maybe I did.
We're not going to tell you.
Okay, good. Don't tell me. So, but again, one of the sayings we were talking about earlier that I said early on is that Parkinson's bothers other people about you worse than it bothers you. And I get people those sincere look in their eyes like, you okay? No, yeah, okay. But the thing that worries me is I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of losing my mental capabilities. That's the thing that scares me. But that can be anybody and anything. So I'll tell you about this one thing. I was sitting with the guy, the neurologist that I started with on Raleigh Neurology. And he's my age, and we'd sit back there and shoot the breeze. And he said, Max, are you scared? I said, no, brother, I've lived about 10 lifetimes. I've done all kinds of crazy things. If I live 30 years or 1 year, I'm not going to be no sissy about it. And that ain't really what I said. But he said, I said, but I know you heard that before. And he looked at me and said, I've never heard that. I thought, oh no, I am going to be a sissy about it, but it's the only thing that I'm having an issue with that might make me change. I'm planning on my idea of retiring is to work 2 days a week. I've got this monster I have to manage, and so I'm still going to probably do that and cut back patients. I'm doing patients 4 days a week now, and I'm hoping when I bring this other doctor that's coming, hopefully in the end of the summer next year, that I'm going to move it to 2 days a week. But I'm really, the only thing that's giving me a problem is like taking metal out of somebody's eye or doing stuff like that. Sometimes I'll have to have the scribe hold their lid, and I'll do it with my left hand because I'm left-handed, so that's good. But my shaking's in my right hand. But I can if I hold their lid with my right hand, the whole head shakes.
Right.
And so I either got to quit shaking in my right hand or start shaking in my left hand so it'll all match. But that's the only issue, and it's not been that big of a problem yet. But if that gets any worse, that might affect how much I practice.
So you're going to try to get yourself down to retirement of 2 days a week. What are you going to do with the other 5?
Well, I kind of had done that before, and I'm going to try to do different because the last time I did it, I was working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I was off the rest of the time. And most of the time I'd sit here at my kitchen table and look out the window at the garden and sit with the dog. And I did like that. Okay. But I need to do more than that. So I'm hoping that when I do move back that way, that I'll feel my time a little better. But I think that takes an effort to do.
So who's running your practice then?
Well, I know we probably talked about, I looked at private equity.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want my daughter to have to spend her life tied to this monster that I'm tied to. And, but actually she really likes it. She's really has an affinity for it. And so, I'm really, excited about that, because my offices are like, I've got four live children and one not live child. That's my practice. And, I want to see them live. And so that's exciting to me that she's wanting to take it over and make it live. And so my plan right now is for her to take it and kind of phase in while I'm phasing out.
That's great. That's amazing. That's kind of, I think, the one thing that we all worry about the most, those of us that are owning our own practices, is the legacy of what's going to happen to that practice. That's and, right. For me, that's hopefully going to turn into my associate that's with me now having half of it, and my son that's in optometry school in Pikeville having the other half. Mm-hmm. And, when I'm ready for them to have the half, of course, but until then, I'm going to run it like it's mine, and of course I'm going to take their input and let them have a very large vote on what we do. Because I'm also a firm believer that I don't have all the ideas and I don't have all the answers. And in fact, my team, not just Dr. Harrison, my associate, but my team comes up with so many brilliant and wonderful ideas. But I heard someone say recently, in fact, she was on the podcast about a year ago, Audrey Nelson. She said, ideas never used are worthless. And so that's really struck a chord with us because we come up with so many really good ideas and don't implement them. Mm-hmm. How do you find it important, or how do you actually take these crazy harebrained ideas that you have and implement them? How do you put them into play?
Well, the ability, the situation I'm in where I'm the lone wolf, makes it easy because I know I can make a mistake and I can pay for it if I make that mistake. You know, when somebody else's money's involved or somebody else's gets hurt from what you do, it's a little harder to do it. So you can't be as aggressive. So that's the biggest thing, and that's what's worried me about letting other people buy in times past, is that it would limit what we could do because they'd go, they don't think maybe in the same terms that I think of, and they're not willing to take a chance. They're scared it's going to make them lose $1,000 of their money or something like that, which would be devastating for them. And for me, it's just gambling.
Yeah. So
it's hard. That's the biggest reason I could do it is because I was the person that got the benefit if it was a hit and got the downside if it wasn't, and I could live with that.
That's a great way to have it. I want to make sure that we wrap this up in a way that's giving everybody enough time to digest what we talked about, because all the stuff has been amazing. If you could leave the group with just like this one last thought, hey, if you don't hear anything else from Max Raynor, you should hear this. What is it?
I think I can tell you, I think what are the secrets to success of a private practice, and that is that you want to make sure that you like we said with the Mexican restaurant thing, you want to treat people like they're your family and you're trying to give them the best you can. And I think you need to have the highest tech practice you can have. And the benefit of that is that two things. You want them, if they go somewhere else, to look around and go, I'm in the wrong place. And so that's one good thing. If you can do that, they win. And the other thing too is that if you make your practices so high tech and so big that when somebody comes to compete with you, they can't really overtake you. They can only the best they can hope for is to make you both commit to kill you both. They'd have to spend so much money to compete with you that they just won't do it. It's kind of optometry practices are like you remember the club. Mm-hmm. The thing on the car that went on your drive that you're on your steering wheel. You want your practice to be like the club so that they move on to the next town where nobody's got a club on their thing, and there's a world of practice like that with no club on the car. So I think if you keep pushing, you'll win in ways you've never imagined.
Well, thanks, Max. Appreciate your time today. This has been an amazing time. It's kind of funny for those of you that don't get to hear the leading up to all these kind of conversations that I have with people. I'll send an invitation out, and almost every single one of them, including you, said, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what I've got to add. I don't know what you could have taken out at this point of what you said today, Max. And that was just an amazing time, and I'm so glad you spent it with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ted. It's good to see you, man.
I've gotten so much out of these conversations with people, learned a ton. It also has forced me to just ask a question and shut up and just sit there and wait. And sometimes it's excruciating, not just because, there's times like even today you were having this great run and all I want to do is go, oh, Max, and let me tell you about this, and just to sit back and just let it all happen. It's amazing how many times when I have just sat back, whatever was in my head came out by the other person. So I didn't have to say it, and I think that adds more to the conversation by me not actually having the conversation. I know that sounds weird, but it really does.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's good.